When your Monstera pushes those thick, pale roots out the side of the pot, do you actually know what it's trying to tell you? Yes, it looks strange. Yes, it looks a little alien, a little invasive, like the plant is doing something wrong. Most owners tuck them back in. Some trim them off. A few just stop looking. But behind those aerial roots, there's something deeper that almost no plant owner ever realizes. It's one of the most emotionally loaded things your Monstera can do. It's your plant asking you for something, something it has been asking for, quietly, for months, maybe years. And if you keep missing the message, which most owners do, you're ignoring a signal 60 million years in the making. Let's start with what those aerial roots really mean. 1. Your Monstera's aerial roots are not a quirk. They're a search party. Ever notice how they don't just poke out a little and stop? They keep growing. They drape over the rim of the pot. They feel their way down the ceramic. They reach across the shelf toward a wall, a curtain, a piece of furniture. You probably assumed they were looking for water, or support, or maybe just being weird. That's what the plant blogs tell you. But here's the thing. In the wild, a Monstera has never once grown standing alone in a pot on a shelf. Monstera deliciosa is a hemiepiphyte native to the rainforests of southern Mexico and Panama. It germinates on the forest floor, climbs the nearest tree, and spends the rest of its life sending aerial roots back down into the bark, the moss, and the decaying debris caught in the branches above. Those roots aren't decoration. They're how it feeds, how it drinks, how it anchors. Research from Missouri Botanical Garden on tropical climbing aeroids confirms it. Aerial roots are not auxiliary organs. They are the primary feeding structures of mature monsteras, built specifically to embrace decomposing organic matter, not open air. So when your monstera pushes those roots out of the pot, it's not confused. It's doing exactly what its biology tells it to do. It's reaching for. The only question is, what? And I'll tell you something right now. Once you understand what those roots are actually hunting for, you're going to look at your monstera completely differently. But I'm saving the answer for the very end, because it's the single most important thing you'll ever learn about this plant. 2. Your monstera doesn't grow aerial roots when it's happy. It grows them when it's compensating. Think about that for a second. Every time a new aerial root appears, your plant is telling you that something in the pot isn't enough. Not dangerous, not dying, just not enough. Here's the science most owners never hear. Aerial roots on a potted monstera are triggered by environmental stress signals, specifically fluctuating moisture, inadequate humidity, and root zone instability. A 2019 study on epiphytic aeroid root development showed that aerial root production spikes when the primary root system experiences what botanists call moisture oscillation, a cycle of drying out and re-wetting that doesn't happen in the wild. In the rainforest, the substrate around a monstera's roots stays moist for weeks. In your apartment, bagged potting mix dries out in 4 to 6 days. Your plant's soil roots hit a drought cycle, panic, and send out aerial roots as a backup water seeker. Think of them as emergency limbs. The plant is saying, I can't get enough through the pot. I need to find another source. And here's what most people don't realize. Every aerial root your monstera produces is a silent rating of the conditions you've given it. A plant with no aerial roots is in equilibrium. A plant with 2 or 3 is mildly stressed. A plant draping roots across the floor is sending a red alert. Your monstera isn't being dramatic. It's being resourceful. And hey, if this is changing how you see your plant right now, hit that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps us reach more plant parents who actually want to understand what their plants are telling them instead of just repeating the same recycled care advice. 3. Those aerial roots are also a living humidity sensor, and they're telling you exactly where your air is driest. Here's something almost no houseplant article mentioned. Aerial roots don't grow in random direction. They orient themselves toward moisture gradients in the air, a phenomenon called hydrotropism, documented in climbing aeroids by plant physiologists at the University of Connecticut. The root tip can detect differences in humidity as small as 5% and actively grows toward the wetter side. So the direction your monstera's aerial roots are pointing is data. If they're reaching toward a window, your room air is too dry, and the window glass is condensing the only moisture in the space. If they're curling down toward the floor, the warmer, wetter air near the ground is outperforming what's around the leaves. If they're reaching toward a bathroom door, a kitchen, or a humidifier, that's your plant literally mapping the one humid corner of your home. Monsteras evolved in an environment with 75 to 90% relative humidity. Most apartments run between 30 and 45%. Your plant is living in a desert compared to where it comes from, and its aerial roots are the compass it uses to find water vapor in the air. Think about that for a second. Your plant has been drawing you a map of your own house, and you've been tucking it back behind the pot. 4. Once you see aerial roots, the single best thing you can do is leave them alone. And here's what most people never realize. The internet has trained plant owners to react, prune them, tuck them back into the soil, wrap them around a moss pole, trim them off for aesthetics. Every one of those responses is wrong. Every one of them interrupts a signal your plant is still trying to send. Cutting an aerial root doesn't hurt the Monstera in a dramatic way, but it teaches the plant something. It teaches it that the search failed, that the reaching didn't work, that the message wasn't received, and the next time conditions shift, the plant sends out fewer, then fewer still. Eventually, a Monstera that's been repeatedly pruned stops producing aerial roots entirely, not because it's happy, but because it has given up communicating. Think about what that means. A Monstera with no aerial roots isn't necessarily a thriving plant. Sometimes it's a plant that's been taught silence, so do nothing. Let them grow, let them drape, let them reach, watch where they go, watch when they appear. Treat every new aerial root like a message in a bottle, because that's exactly what it is. And here's the part nobody tells you. If you just let those roots grow, and you give them even slightly better conditions to reach into, a humid corner, a damp moss pole, a tray of pebbles and water nearby, within weeks they'll thicken, anchor, and start doing the job they were designed to do for the last 60 million years. They'll start feeding the plant from the air. 5. Your Monstera's aerial roots are older than your house, older than your city, older than agriculture. Here's where this gets deeper than most plant content ever goes. The behavior you're watching, a root growing out of a stem, suspended in air, searching for a surface, is one of the oldest adaptations in the plant kingdom. Hemiepiphytism, the evolutionary strategy Monsteras use, appears in the fossil record as far back as the early Cretaceous period. That's before bees, before mammals, before grass. In that deep evolutionary history, a young Monstera deliciosa would germinate in leaf litter on the rainforest floor, and then it would do something almost no other plant does. It would grow away from the light, toward the darkest shadow it could find. This is called scototropism, and Monsteras are one of only a handful of known plants that exhibit it. Why grow toward darkness? Because the darkest shadow is the base of the tallest tree, and that tree is its ladder to the canopy. Once it reached the trunk, it would start climbing, and as it climbed, it would send aerial roots back down into the bark, the moss, the rotting debris wedged in the crooks of branches, anchoring, drinking, feeding. For the rest of its life, its roots lived in two worlds, some in the ground, some in the air, each doing a different job. That's what's happening right now in your living room. The aerial root draped across your bookshelf is running the same program that Monsteras have run for 100 million years. It doesn't know it's in an apartment. It doesn't know it's in a ceramic pot. It just knows what to do. Reach, feel, search, anchor. Think about that for a second. You're not watching a houseplant quirk. You're watching one of the oldest behaviors in the botanical world, perfectly preserved, playing out 3 feet from your couch. 6. Your Monstera's aerial roots have been asking you one specific question for years, and this is the answer. Remember earlier when I said I'd tell you what those roots are actually hunting for? This is it. Every aerial root your Monstera puts out is searching for one thing. Not water, not light, not support. It's searching for decay, specifically rotting wood, a fallen log, softening bark, decomposing debris from a tree it was supposed to climb. That substrate is what Monsteras evolved to live on. Rotting hardwood holds up to 5 times its dry weight in water. It releases nitrogen and phosphorus slowly for decades. It hosts the fungal networks a Monstera's roots are designed to partner with. In the wild, every mature Monstera is rooted into something that's quietly falling apart. And that's where it gets everything it needs. Your Monstera has never found that. Not in any pot you've ever given it. The bagged soil drains too fast. The perlite holds nothing. The orchid bark is fresh and sterile, not decaying. Your plant has been living its entire life in a substrate its DNA doesn't recognize, so it reaches, out of the pot, down the side, across the shelf, year after year, aerial root after aerial root. It's not confused. It's not broken. It's looking for the one thing it has always needed and has never been given, a piece of rotting wood to anchor into. And here's what most people don't realize. You can give it to them. A single piece of decaying hardwood, a chunk of old oak, a softening piece of bark, even a properly built moss pole packed with organic matter, placed where those aerial roots are already reaching, and within weeks they'll thicken, darken, and anchor. The plant settles, the leaves grow larger, the new growth fenestrates, the whole plant changes, because for the first time in its life, it has found what it was looking for. That's not just a plant care tip, that's your Monstera, after years of asking, finally being heard. Because those aerial roots reaching out of your pot, They were never strange. They were never wrong. They were never a problem to fix. They were a question, asked quietly for months, for years, by a plant that carries a 60-million-year-old instinct inside a ceramic pot on your shelf. And now you know what it's been asking for. So let them reach, let them grow, give them something to find, and let your Monstera know you were finally listening.